One of the great things about the Twizy is there's always somewhere to park it. Morning guys, so I'm just doing a couple of errands this morning. It is 20 past 8 in the morning, and yeah, hence the husky voice. Yeah, so just got to collect a couple of bits. Got something interesting to show you today, a bit later on, with the solar shed. Right, well the doctor's surgery shut. I thought it opened at 8 o'clock. Right, so yeah, whilst I'm waiting for this doctor's surgery to open, I can show you something. So this, guys, is the remote control panel for the, that's in the shed. So it's just opening up. So this is, I can do this from anywhere. You can just basically see all the information. It might be a bit slow because of the internet, but when that comes out, there you go, you can see it. You might notice that my voltage is a little bit low at the moment, and yeah, you can see 14% on there. But also look at the amount of amp hours currently out of the battery. So guys, I've actually set up the CALB cells that I picked up, the LIFE P04 cells. We'll just call them life cells for short. So I was working out whether to actually kind of build them into the system that I've already got, like the little kind of mini micro Powerball thing that I built and everything that's on the wall. But in the end, I went another direction completely. Right guys, back. Errands done, everything's sorted. So now I'm going to show you this. Right, so over here guys, you'll notice everything's different. Like there's no stuff on the wall anymore. I've taken all that down for the moment, and I'll show you why. The battery's here. I think what I'm going to do is make this into like a portable battery. I think that's the plan for that. But anyway, so we'll go over here and I'll start with the top. So the solar charger's here, exactly the same one as before, the MPPT 120 amp controller. Now I've got this rack basically, which is just like a little garage. I know it's like a little garage workshop rack type thing that I just picked up off of Amazon. But it's actually pretty sturdy. Once you start adding more of the bars and stuff in, it actually sort of makes it a lot more sturdy than it kind of looks when you get it out of the pack. So if we look on the top here, I've got the Victron battery meter, another battery meter because I actually repaired my other one. This is the new one. The one in the other battery is the original one. So you can see some charges going in, about 9 amps going in. And then under this, if you flip this open, all will be revealed. This is quite good actually, you can just flip that open, you can see what's underneath and you can get all the bits. So everything that I had before is actually in here now. We've basically got the Victron Battery Protect, which is like a smart switch as well. So you can turn the system on and off without causing massive sparks or anything like that. Actually, I haven't got a switch on it at the moment, but if you just remove this little jumper here, this little white bridged jumper, the system just turns off, so that's fantastic for that. You're not really going to want to turn it off that often anyway. Maybe if you want to work on it, or if there's a problem or something like that, you can just pull that out and everything turns off. So we got 200 amp fuse in there, which is like a mega fuse. I haven't put that down properly yet, so you can actually see the fuse in there. Now I've got these pretty substantial cables on everything now. These are 40 millimeters squared. I was trying to get 50, but the place where I was getting this stuff from, basically they sort of jump from 40 to 60, and 60 is a bit extreme, and you can't, fit connectors on anything, so it gets a bit of a pain. But so I've got the Victron shunt here. Everything's kind of using these M8 ring terminals, which are well hefty. I'll show you them in a minute, maybe. So that goes off down there to the inverter. So here, you ready for this, guys? This is the money shot. So we've got 4 CALB cells in here. These are about 200 amp hour cells, as I mentioned in the other video. They're lithium ferrite phosphate, so LIFE cells, and they are 3.2 volts nominal, I think. So 4 of these gives you 12.8 volts, and I think maximum charge voltage is 3.6 a cell. So yeah, like 14.4 maximum. So the thing with these cells, guys, is they're actually out of an electric vehicle. I think it's an Allied Boxer van. So they're capable of probably above 500 amps per cell. Which is just nuts. So in total here, this works out at kind of probably fully charged, nearly a 3 kilowatt hour battery, like 2.8 kilowatts or something like that, which is pretty good. So we got a BMS on here. This is a Chargery BMS 8. I'm testing this at the moment on this battery, and it's blooming fantastic. These things are only cheap. I think it's probably about 60, 70 quid, which is probably 3 times as much as a Chinese BMS from Amazon. But actually this is great because it gives you the voltages, so individual, that's the voltage difference, first cell, second cell, third cell, and fourth cell. See, most of them are actually pretty imbalanced, but there are some issues which I'll go into in a minute. Not with the balancer, but how these cells are kind of working out and balancing and everything else. So also what's neat about this, I mean, this is probably really only good for about 20 amps charge rate, because these little terminal connectors they've got on the side, they're just bullet connectors. So I wouldn't run more than probably 20 amps continuous on those. This is the temperature sensor wire that just goes into the middle of the pack. And then these wires just go off to the charge controller directly. And then down here we've got the Victron inverter, and then my other 1000 watt inverter, which isn't wired up yet. I'm going to wire this up to the same system because these batteries can basically handle it. So I could run, you know, something on that 1000 watt inverter, and then the rest of the shed off the other Victron one. And then over here is the Raspberry Pi, the USB hub, and then all the stuff to do the monitoring under there. And then under this one here, I mean, I could add another bank of these. I can get more of these cells. So I could add just another one, maybe make it 24 volts. So if we come back over to the balancer, you can see this little light here. This is balancing at the moment. Now, when I got these cells, they were mostly all the same charge. The guy who I got them from actually charged them up to, I think he charged them up to like 3.3 volts each individually, or I think, yeah, it was individually. So he sort of took them up to about there and then cut it exactly the same on each cell. Automated, I think. You know, they're all supposed to be the same voltage, but one cell was slightly more than the others when I got them. And I left it on this balancer overnight. It kind of ironed it out. This balancer brings things down to a sensible level. Normally around 0.015. That's where it kind of stops. It might be a little bit lower than that, but basically it brings things down. I think it's supposed to have a 300 milliamp hour discharge, but I'm not sure exactly what the discharge is. I suppose I could find out actually if I've got a clamp meter on one of these wires. But anyway, it works well. What it does as well is it actually cuts the charge, because I'm actually charging through this, but I'm not discharging through this. So that's how I've got this rigged up. Mainly because I've got other ways of low voltage cut-offs, you know, on the battery protect and also the inverter. So I'm not doing that. There's a slight issue with if one cell goes right down, you know, I might not notice it, but there is something you can do with this Victron battery meter to actually detect a difference between the cells. So if the difference goes completely crazy, this is what I did on the other battery actually, this is what I did on that. So if the difference goes too wayward, you do it by monitoring a midpoint of the cells. So if a voltage goes, if the midpoint goes too far off, you know, the comparison between the two 2S strings, if you like, if that goes off, then it can click a relay and just basically turn everything off. So that's quite good. So I'm going to probably set that up. But what happens with this balancer, if you're charging through this balancer, it balances as it's charging as well. So it will pull out 300 milliamps supposedly, you know, if one cell is kind of leading the others. And it does this, you know, just by bleeding off, I don't think it actually kind of moves the charge into the other cells. But basically it just kind of bleeds off that extra. So if you're charging at a high rate, it's not really going to do a lot balancing wise that way. But if it gets too far out of skew, so if say one cell goes over 0.1 of a volt higher than the others, it just stops the charge. So it will interrupt the charge, and then what it does is it then starts to balance automatically, and then it reconnects the charger. Now this is what, it doesn't actually say it does that in the manual, but this is how I've tested it, and this is what happens, because one of the cells in this pack actually charges slightly quicker than the others, and that is a little concerning because it might mean that cell's weaker than the others or lower capacity, so it's charging up faster. This only happens right at the very end of the charge, and I think that's common with LIFE cells. I think actually as they get to the point where they're almost charged, they can go out a little bit, from what I've been reading. So yeah, I don't know if it's the thing to be worried about, but actually the guy that I got these cells from said he's happy to just switch that over to another cell so they're all, you know, a little bit more in balance, which will help. So I'm going to do that. But I've been playing around with this and actually discharging using the heater and everything else on. I've had 100 amps out of here continuously, and it's crazy. Like the voltage just doesn't really drop. It's mad. So when you're using big cells like this, like from an electric vehicle, they'll just deliver. So this is another reason for looking at 12 volts this is quite cost effective to have 4 cells, and it can run pretty much anything. I would hazard a guess that this would probably run a 3 kilowatt inverter for near enough an hour, which starts getting interesting then, because you could potentially charge the Twizy, or top up the Twizy from this bank. So Twizy's got 6 kilowatt hours, so you know, realistically, if I nip down to the shops, I'd probably burn off, I don't know, like maybe 2 kilowatts or something like that, less than that maybe, just doing that little trip. So if I wanted to top it up, you know, I could probably use this bank. But for running the shed and actually things in the house when the power goes out, this is actually looking really good. I mean, I could half the current if I went to 24 volts, but then you've got to add another 4 cells, so you know it starts getting a bit pricey. Actually, this BMS will handle up to 8 cells as well, so you could do it fairly easily. So yeah, it might be something I'll do in the future. But managing 4 used cells is actually, yeah, it's quite an eye opener, you know, because it's different to this battery, which used pretty much brand new 26650 cells, and things just weren't going out of balance. They were just right on the nail. It's a windy day today. My door keeps blowing open. Must fix that handle. So yeah, guys, that's where we're at the moment. I'll keep you updated on what's going on with this, and what I'm going to do with that other bank as well. But basically, everything that I had on the wall is on here. So it's charging up now. Yesterday, I took out, you'll see this is crazy, 142 amp hours I took out of this. I just basically ran that 500 watt heater, this one here. I just basically ran that continuously just to, you know, heat the shed up. And I think it used about 2 kilowatts in total, 2 kilowatt hours. But yeah, in total that's 142 gone out. So now I've got to get that back into the batteries, and it's going to take a blooming long time through there, and with virtually no sunshine as well. So I'm looking at other ways to charge this. I could use this to charge. This would charge at 20 amps maximum as well, but this power supply flat out for 10 hours will probably die if I do that. Yeah, so things are moving on in the solar shed. I could do with another 4 panels really, but I don't know, it's getting expensive all this. Right guys, I was just about to go out and I just looked on the control panel and noticed that it had stopped charging. So I think what's happened, by looking at the control panel, it was showing like 20 amps was going in. And I think I've only got a 20 amp fuse on my, yeah, I think I've only got a 20 amp fuse on my actual charger. Yeah, there it is guys, blown to smithereens. No, if I've got another fuse in here, which is bigger, I think they're all 15 amps, these little ones. I know what I'll do, this is annoying, but what I'll do is I'll limit my charge to 15 amps, because you can do that on this stuff. Right, so coming to the control panel, the solar charger, battery, and I've changed that to 15 amps now, so you can get out of there. No, it's probably pushing out, probably should be just under 15 amps really, but oh well. This is a record day for power coming in. This was up to about 300 watts earlier. I know the voltage is a little bit lower actually, because obviously we're using the 12 volt or 4 cell life pack now, but yeah, it's good. So you can see a bit of balancing is going on here. We've got you know, one light there. So if you go into each cell voltages, that was the main voltage, that's the difference, and then you've got each cell voltage here coming up quite nicely. There's such a plateau on these cells, like when it's actually sitting at 3.3 volts, that could be like 20% charged, or it could be like 80% charged. They just stay at the same voltage for ages. As you can see here, we've got 134 amp hours, you know, still out. So we've still got to stick in 135 amp hours to actually charge the battery. So this is going to take, you know, it's going to take a couple of days at this rate. As I was saying, I just need to hook up like a mains charger as well to get some serious power in there. That was a nice little afternoon lunch with Sarah, and it was free as well because she's doing a thing with Slug and Lettuce, featuring their new menu, which is vegan and vegetarian. They got like vegan and vegetarian options basically. So we had a slap up meal and cocktails and everything else. So that'll be featuring on Sarah's blog. So yeah guys, if you haven't been to a Slug and Lettuce for a while, go check them out, because I think they're refurbing all of them, and this one was pretty cool, pretty good. Right, so I'm back in the workshop, and what I've done, basically I've just connected another set of leads, which are just ending in nothing, because I've got a charger coming tomorrow which is going to plug onto this. I was debating whether to use this charger. I mean, it's perfectly good and everything, but this power supply I think is a little bit on the shaky side. So I've grabbed the charger. It's only a 15 amp charger, but it will be perfect for this, because it just means when this needs topping up, I can just switch that on, charges from the mains, probably at night as well when the rate's a bit cheaper. Not that it matters, it's only like a few kilowatts, isn't it? But yeah, that's where we're at. So got these two bullet connectors. I'm going to connect those to the Chargery BMS 8, which I'm not going to be able to do with one hand and with the camera. So you might get a little spark on this as you connect it to the charge controller. No, not really, nothing. Right, so fire that up. So that should be powering the controller now. You should get a little blue flashing light on there. Yeah, there you go. Because what this does, it actually charges from the charge controller, but it also lets power out, because this is like a two-way BMS. It charges and discharges from the same place. But all we're doing for discharge on this really is the load on this charge controller. I've got a load connected here, which is just powering the Raspberry Pi, and I think this as well. Everything seems okay under there, so we can shut this down, and you can see here 250 milliamps going out now. So that's 250 milliamps. That's the Raspberry Pi, and obviously that does seem quite a lot really for the Raspberry Pi and that thing. But I suppose that thing's got a display, isn't it? So it's probably taking a bit of power. So these leads here are all just going to basically be ready for tomorrow, and I can swap them into the charger, and we can get a bit of serious charging. I mean, we got about 20 amp hours in today, but I had to disconnect it because I don't like, at the moment while I'm testing, I don't like going out and leaving it all turned on, like charging, because you just never know, do you? But you know, as I kind of get a little bit more familiar with what's actually going on and how the BMS works, I will eventually, I'm sure I will eventually just kind of just leave it charging. But right now, yeah, I'm a bit wary of all this stuff. Also had a little tidy up in here, guys. What do you reckon? Looks a bit more neat, doesn't it? I've put another shelf up here as well. See the one with the kettle on the top, little tea making station with the induction thing. And yeah, obviously all of that. But I just tidied it up a little bit. It was getting a little bit out of control. And I just stuck this chair over here, so I can kind of just sit down and have a chill, maybe like have a cup of tea or something. And also look at the bike and wonder what the next thing I'm going to do to the bike is. Yeah, there was a lot of junk in here and stuff that just needed to be kind of chucked out or moved somewhere else. So yeah, anyway guys, that's it from me, and I'll catch you in the next video.